and your background.
Okay, my name is Nancy Stabb, and I am not a Wisconsin native, but I moved here in 1962. And so I've lived in Janesville since 1966.
Where did you grow up?
Well, I'm originally from Kentucky,
Wow.
but I lived in Michigan, and I graduated from high school in California and went to UC Berkeley for a couple of years.
What is your family background?
My father was a carpenter, my mother was a bookkeeper, and I don't remember talking politics at home. I think that was just something that they didn't. I know my mother voted, at least when she got older she did, but I'm not even sure my father voted. They supported Eisenhower, remember that? But I don't know what they thought about Roosevelt. I think maybe in my Kentucky family there were people on both sides and they just didn't talk about it.
So what sort of work have you done in your life?
Well, mostly teaching. Was certified to teach, taught for a year right out of college, graduated from UW Stevens Point. We were living in Wausau at the time, and then I taught at Parker High School for 15 years, from 84 to 99. And I did a few odd jobs, including working for a hospice for 4 years back in 1979 to 1983 or 4, something like that.
What did you teach?
Taught chemistry and math and 9th grade science sometimes.
Have you considered yourself an advocate or an activist?
An interesting question, and I thought about that, and I think I'm some of each. Definitely advocate. I'm very comfortable speaking on behalf of issues and writing letters and making phone calls. And I have from time to time performed or participated in some protests, but that's really not my thing, being an activist. But I can. When the governor of Wisconsin and the state legislature passed Act 10 that was so harmful to education and teachers, I went to Madison. I was part of the group that was out there. So.
Have you always been engaged in civic activities and interested in public policy issues?
For a long time. I loved history and government in college, but I liked science more. So my major was in science and math. But when I was invited to join the Wausau League when we lived there, I was intrigued by the idea of learning more about the way the government works. And you have to recall that the 60s were a lot like recent times. It was a very turbulent time politically. We had a president was assassinated in '63. There were civil rights demonstrations. There were anti-war demonstrations. Martin Luther King was assassinated, Robert Kennedy, there were some others, Medgar Evers. It was a very turbulent time. So I just wanted to understand what was going on. How was it we got in Vietnam, and why are we still there, and is that the appropriate thing? Those kinds of questions. So it was just, I think, curiosity about things in the 60s, and that just led to deeper involvement.
So what prompted your interest and engagement in the League?
Well, I was invited to come to a meeting, and I had taught for a year, and I was a new mom, and I was home by myself a lot, and this was an opportunity to meet with other people who were interested in government and in public policy issues, and I found the women in the organization to be very interesting, and I thought, I think I would like this as a way to do something besides being a homemaker and a mother.
So who inspired you, or what inspired you to remain a member all these years?
Yeah. I think the people. I liked the people. I would have missed them if I hadn't stayed active. I think getting very involved. I joined in Wausau in '65, and then we moved to Janesville in '66, and I joined here. I moved my membership right away. And by '69, I was elected the local league president. I think they were desperate; they couldn't find anybody else. But it forced me to get organized and, learn how to run a meeting and that sort of thing. And as Linda knows, as president, you learn about all kinds of things that way. And I was always very interested in environmental issues. And those were really hot issues in the 60s and 70s. Water pollution, clean air, land use, all that. And so those issues kept me involved because I wanted to know more about those issues. And I wanted to be part of an organization that was doing something to fix the problems that we were having. But it was doing more than that. I mean, I belong to Sierra Club and Audubon, and they're doing that too. But the League was they were getting people involved in voting. They were all the voter service things that we do. There was human resources. There was foreign policy. We were studying foreign policy at that time. I was on a committee with Jan Kinnaman, and we were reading books on China and trying to understand the issue of Taiwan and China and what the U.S. policy should be. So all that was going on. It was a very politically turbulent time, a lot of discussion.
Has your interest changed over time?
No, I'm still very passionate about the environmental issues, and I'm supportive of all the others.
Do you think the League strategies have changed?
The way I see that the League has changed in the 50 plus years that I've been a member is that we do less of the study and discussion that we did years ago. That was really, really a big part of it, and I really enjoyed that part of it. And we are more focused now on defending democracy, which I think is very appropriate, because I think that is what we need to be doing now. But the strategy's changed a little bit, and of course it's much easier to contact your legislators and advocate for positions that you feel strongly about than it was. I mean, then it was just all writing letters and typing them.
So how would you categorize, or actually characterize, the contributions you've made, great or small, to the League at the local, state, and or national level?
Well, I have held several leadership positions in the local league. I was president twice.
Wow.
I've been on the state board twice. As I said, I was local league president 69 to 71. In the 70s, I was on the state board, and environment was my portfolio while I was on the state board. And then I was local league president again, and I'm trying to remember, I think, Linda, that was 2001 to 2003 or 3 to 5. Early 2000s. And then after I did that, I was asked to be on the state board again, and so I served on the state board until about 2007, I think. I was on there about 4 years. So I have provided, I have assumed leadership responsibilities in the league over the years. I've done just about everything except be treasurer, I think. Yeah, the league was really sort of a college of how to organize and mobilize and activate people. It was just an immersion in that I never got in college. I didn't know anything about running a meeting. I didn't know anything about writing up an agenda. I didn't know anything about contacting your legislators, all that sort of thing. And I learned it quickly. And I had good role models.
So from your 50 plus year perspective, what has the League done well, and where has it fallen short, and where should it direct its energies going forward?
I think the League has always excelled in its voter services activities. And there was a time, and maybe you two don't know that, but when the League was the one that hosted the presidential debates. And we did it 2 or 3 cycles. And then the parties wanted to put so many restrictions on what could be done that the League said, no, we're going to do it. If we're going to do it and our name's on it, we are in control of the details, not you. And so that was when the League backed off. But the idea of the debates, and then the League, our local League has done candidate forums ever since I've been a member for school board and city council.
Yeah.
And we've done voter registration as much as we were permitted to do ever since I've been a member. So all of that, I think, has been strong, and that is still strong. It's even maybe stronger now, but it's certainly no less strong now than it was 50 years ago. Two things I think that are maybe a little weakness now, and then there's the second one that we're correcting. Our first one, years ago, we really didn't pay much attention to diversity amongst our membership. We were quite satisfied. We were almost entirely white, mostly educated women who either had a job or a profession that they had stepped aside from while they had small children. Or like in case of Sima Wexler, she and her husband had a jewelry store downtown, so it was, I don't think we meant to be exclusive, but we were. And now we recognize that was not the best way for us to be, especially if we want more voter engagement. We need to form relationships with other groups and be allies and learn from them as they could learn from us. So that was a weakness we had, which we are addressing with our diversity, equity, and inclusion focus the last, 5-10 years, Linda?
I think it's less than that.
Less than that?
Mm-hmm.
No, when we went to
5 years
national
maybe.
convention, and that was 3 years ago, that was a big deal then, so.
So 5 years.
Yeah, and our new executive director at the national level is, I think she's Hispanic or Latinx, is she not?
Virginia?
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the president is an African American woman.
That's right. Right. So, and Virginia now, she is a college graduate, but she was a single unmarried mom for a while. So, she has a different perspective on things then. The other is that we used to do a lot more to raise money. And I know nobody likes to do that, but we saw the finance drive in the early days back in the 60s and 70s as an opportunity to sell the league to civic-minded people. So doctors and lawyers and other people or business people downtown, and we would write them letters and say, these are the things we've done, and our membership dues cannot cover all of our expenses, and would you make a contribution to the league? And then we'd follow up and if they didn't respond to the letter, we'd follow up with a phone call and sometimes with a visit. And we would go out in teams to, visit these people. And we raised hundreds of dollars. Yes. We've gotten away from that. And I think we're doing okay financially now, but our dues are high, and that is a barrier, I think, for some people. Even though we say, we'll have a scholarship or whatever, I think it's perceived as a barrier. And the other thing we're missing is that opportunity to do a little PR with the community.
So, speaking of the community, do you think the public perception of the league's nonpartisanship policy has weakened or strengthened over the years?
I think it's weakened, but that's not because of what the league has done. That's because of what's happening in the body politics and the hyper-partisanship. In the 60s and the 70s and even into the 80s, we worked with both sides of the aisle. We had, there would be co-sponsors, Republican and Democrat, for bills that we were supporting, and we could work with them. And nobody said the league was this or that, because we always focused on issues, not on people. We never, it wasn't anything about party. And we still focus on issues, and we do not support candidates, even in nonpartisan. But as a practical matter, the issues that we support tend to be more progressive. And so the people who see that as being too liberal think that we are all Democrats. They think, and we may be, but we don't support the Democratic Party. But I mean, there was a time when that was never a question, and now it is. And I think we see that in lack of cooperation. GOP candidates are less apt to cooperate with our voter service activities.
And vote 411.
Yeah, right. When we try to get information to post on their positions on things, they're less likely to respond to our request. So that's unfortunate, but I don't think it's anything we've done. I don't think we've changed. I think body politics has changed.
So have you grown personally in any way that you might attribute to your time and experience with the
Oh, yeah.
league?
Oh, yeah. I think it has made me a much better citizen. I really do believe that, I mean, the league purpose is, informed and active citizen participation in government. And I've always really thought that was a really good way to describe what the league is about. And it's very satisfying to be involved. And I was very involved in the 60s and 70s, and then I went to work full-time in the mid-80s. And from 84 to 99, when I was teaching full-time, I didn't have much time for the league. But I always paid my membership because I wanted to be part of a group that was looking out for the greater good and not just focused on one issue, but a multi-issue group that was working to make our country more fair and equitable and safe with the environment. But the league has always, the league taught me to be as concerned about process as about the product, that our government will work best if it listens to people and their decision making is transparent, than if they're behind closed doors and we don't know what's going on. And so the league is there to call them on that sometimes when they don't do what they should be doing. Not that we can always correct it, but at least somebody's watching. Another thing we used to do was we did more with observers, and we still do that from time to time. We've tried to resurrect that idea, but going and watching city council and school board, and in the 70s, because I was a member of the league, I was asked to be on a sign advisory committee, like I'm trying to think of the word, the billboards that you see, yeah. Anyway, the city was, they thought there were just too many of them around. Some people were complaining they visual pollution. And so the city wanted to write a new ordinance to control that. And so they gathered some citizens to talk about, what's wrong with what we have now, what would you like to see? We'll ignore that. What would you like to see? What are other cities doing? What are, these are some things we could do. Anyway, I was on this advisory committee. We didn't have any authority, but we did have some input into what was going to be voted on by the council. And then, after that, I was asked to be on the Community Development Authority, and that was brand new. And David Feingold was the first chair, and I was on that first Community Development Authority. And that was very interesting, and there were a couple of initiatives that the CDA had put forth, and as a result, that the council had to vote on. And so with the sign advisory and with CDA, I had to go to council meetings and watch what was going on and see how these things sort of played out. And I was sitting there watching, I'm thinking, I can do as well as those guys. There was a woman on the council, another league member, Sema Wexler, the year I decided to run. So in '79, somebody asked me if I would run. And I said, okay, I will. And so Carolyn Brandine, who's another life member, was my campaign chair. And so, I would never have done any of that if I had not been a member of the league.
So these brought out some leadership qualities that you didn't really know you had, but you...
Well, and opportunities. I think it created opportunities. Yes, it brought them out. I learned things, certainly by organizing for meetings and so on, but it presented opportunities that I might not otherwise have had.
So that's why it happens, because of the opportunity, or because of...
Both, I think.
Yeah.
I think the league did both.
So, do you have anything that you'd like to share to say to others thinking about joining the league today?
Well, I think it's a wonderful organization. I have for over 50 years, and I just feel like it's good to be a part of something that's working for the greater good of our democracy and making democracy really work the way we would like it to work in the 21st century. Maybe this is not what the founding fathers had in mind, but this is how it has evolved. And our democracy needs to be more open and inclusive and accessible. And I think the League is an organization that can provide strong leadership in that direction. It's also a great place to meet interesting people. And my best friends are, for the most part, in the League of Women Voters. And here's another piece of advice for people who are joining, is to get involved right away in something that the League is doing, either in voter service activities, a study committee, a book discussion group. We've done that in the summertime. Be on the board of directors. Being on the board of directors is the best way to learn what the League is about. And once you do that and you realize all the things that the organization does at the local, state, and national level, you're kind of hooked. I guess I was anyway. So, but you have to kind of get involved, and that's where it's harder now for people, because they're so involved in their professions. More women are employed and working full time, and so they just don't have as much time as I had when I was in my 20s and 30s and 40s to early 40s to give to the organization.
So that's your best advice, is to get involved?
Get involved, right. Get involved. Find something in the League and that you care about, and do something, even if it's something small. I mean, for the years that I was working full time, about the only thing I did besides paying my dues was that from time to time I would moderate a forum, or candidates forum or something like that. That was a sort of a one-shot thing. I could go do that. I didn't have to get ready for it. I didn't have to follow up with, it was an easy thing to do. But if you can, accept an offer to join the board.